Live, love, design. It's your time. With me, Kathy Jack Copeland.
It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, 4. Draw, refine, stitch, repeat. That's my mantra for creating meaningful textile and fibre art. Welcome to my design series. I'm Kathy Jack Copeland and I'll be sharing my tips learnt from over 20 years experience as an Australian textile artist, designing and creating machine embroidered artworks. Line is one of the most versatile of the visual elements, often used right at the beginning of the design process, able to communicate and draw and direct the eye across and around a design.
We're moving on to the elements of design, beginning with one of the simplest yet most powerful and expressive of them all, line, the great multitasker, able to suggest shape, pattern, form, focal point, structure, depth, contrast, distance, tone, texture, rhythm, light source, and movement, not to mention a range of emotions. My Country, My Way is one of my art quilts, which uses line in so many ways. There's a line running through the entire work. There's overarching lines in the rainbow, lines indicating flooding rains, lines of grass, radiating lines around the sun, curved lines within the sun, and stitch direction supporting everything. The quilting even underpins the storyline. Straight lines emulating drumming rain using a beautiful variegated thread. So a line has the ability to control and move the viewer's eye around a design. Just think about that a moment. A great line offers instant visual engagement and can be incredibly pleasing, powerful, and satisfying. It can caress, antagonize, lull, lure, demand, dictate, or pacify. The list is endless, and that's bewitching for any artist because it reaches out directly to the viewer. So why not use it wherever and whenever appropriate, especially in textile and fibre art? It's usually the first element used by artists to begin a design and is fundamental yet indispensable in design development, looked upon as one of the principal elements to support a visually pleasing design. Lines can be primitive, organic, structural, simple, or intricate. It doesn't matter. What matters is having an understanding of the properties a line offers, because it's so much more than we think. But before I go into those properties, I'd like to show you some simple images I've taken around my local area. Images that have inspired design work for my embroidered artworks, primarily because of line and shape. Every one of them began with a line and was built up little by little, either by drawing or collaging drawn shapes. The integral and all-important element used throughout was line. Yes, creating shape, but also to lead and direct the eye. And it all started with an effortless, undemanding, manageable line. And this is one of the simplest, most useful tips I can offer. Take your phone with you everywhere, especially on your walks, and take images of things that excite you. It could be related to colour, it could be light or shape or line, it doesn't matter. Taking photos is the most useful technique I know to inspire me to get pencil to paper to begin a new design. And don't just stop at one image. Take several and combine elements from each image that really talks to you. It might be line in one image, shape in another, and colour in yet another image. Think of it like a cartoon and just pull the necessary information you want into your design from each of your images. There's tons of inspiration inside your home as well. I've included an image of a meringue having red food colouring folded through, and that would make an amazing line drawing for a new design. So look around your home for great line inspiration as well. Creating designs from images should be included in your visual journal. I'll talk about that shortly. And they don't have to be stitched, but rather used as a rich resource for future design work. What I'm really saying here is that it's fine to just take pleasure in creating a sketch or drawing without the pressure of creating a design and having to stitch it out. Keep them and use them to draw upon later, so that when that urge to stitch a new design hits, you'll have a reserve or reservoir of wonderful ideas from which to draw. Or if you wish to enter an exhibition with a particular theme, who knows? You may just have a wealth of ideas ready to go in your visual journal, perfect to support that theme. Don't forget, you can also use images of your design process on your social media to share with friends or like-minded groups you belong to. It's a win-win as far as I'm concerned. And while I'm talking about line in design, I need to bring to mind the importance of line in textile art using embroidery or quilting. I usually use the same technique in most of my embroidered artworks, free machine embroidery, but I know after years of experience that stitch direction, which is basically just another use of line, is essential in supporting my drawn design. Filling in that shape is one thing, but stitch direction can either make or break that shape. Ask me how I know. The time I've spent unpicking my work because it just didn't look right has given me great insight. I sometimes draw in lines before I stitch to ensure shapes are filled correctly and evenly, particularly if it's a rounded shape needing an even distribution of perpendicular stitch from left to right through a central point, exactly the same way a hand embroiderer would work if filling a traditional rounded shape. So line not only informs and supports my design, but also the direction in which I stitch. And that's something really important to remember when designing. You can pencil in this sort of information directly onto your paper design, if that's the way you work, or in your visual journal. Just make a note before you stitch so you don't forget. Okay, let's get back on track and explore the element of line further to reveal its true potential, beginning with its expressive and emotional qualities. Lines drawn freehand can express mood, energy, and action. Look at the wonderful work of Jago Hortel, for example. I mention him later. Structured lines, on the other hand, exhibit a rigid control. Think of the buildings or even of blueprints. A continuous line can lead the eye across and around a design. Broken lines express the ephemeral or insubstantial. Thick lines denote strength, while thin lines indicate delicacy. Curved lines suggest comfort and ease. Horizontal lines allude to calm and distance. Vertical lines denote strength and height. Jagged lines display anxiety and turmoil. And the principle of contrast gets even more from a simple line. So you have thick and thin, curved and straight, rough and smooth, few and many, long and short. And we haven't even touched on line's relationship with the other principles: rhythm, pattern, tone or value, focal point, texture, repetition, balance, positive and negative space. Go through old magazines and cut out examples of each of these when you come across them. Trust me, you'll start looking at the world from a different perspective from now on. So you can see, while this episode is all about line, It's also about needing to understand how the elements not only support each other, but are in turn also supported by the principles of design as well. And the only way to truly understand these concepts, because I didn't really fully understand any of this until I began my own design and inspiration resources, is to get your sketchbook out, the one used from my previous episode, What is Design? So you can begin to enter some examples of the expressive line and the emotive line, as well as how it interacts with each of the principles. So let's jump straight in with some line exercises. I suggest you do as I did. Simply make a rectangular template out of cardboard, choosing a size that suits how you like to work. Trace around it and fill it with your interpretation of the following. Or you could simply do these exercises freely, letting them cascade into each other. Your choice. Start with free hand lines, expressing mood and energy by using gently curved lines, suggesting comfort and ease, straight, vertical, diagonal, horizontal, wavy, scalloped, zigzag, curly, graduated, curved, dots, dashes, chevron, spiral, broken, crisscross. And if I said to you to draw lines expressing happiness, sadness, sunshine, heaviness, trepidation, I wonder what sort of lines you'd use. Structured lines, exhibiting control by using strongly balanced, rigid lines. Continuous lines to lead the eye around or across the work. Broken lines, expressing the ephemeral or insubstantial. Thick and thin lines showing strength and delicacy. Curved and straight lines showing gentleness and rigidity. Rough and smooth lines indicating texture, danger, or comfort. Few and many lines expressing spatial relationships. Long and short lines exhibiting height and strength. Line as pattern, indicating rhythm and repetition. Line as tone or value. Line as a focal point. Line as balance. Line used as negative space. Line as shape and form. Remember, a shape has width and height, while form has width, height, and depth. The implied line, where the elements forming a line are broken, hidden behind some sort of visual barrier. Yet we join these elements with our eye automatically, and this is one of my favourite uses of line. The unbroken line. Think of stippling used in quilting. For an organic line, try using drops of ink on your paper and blowing them with a straw to create wonderfully expressive lines. Or try drawing with your non-dominant hand. Also helps to achieve a beautiful freehand line. Try drawing a vase of flowers or a bowl of fruit on a separate page. Now, some people are able to design instinctively, and that's fantastic. But if you struggle with design, these rules and tools, the elements and principles of design, will help you in your design work. But you have to understand how they all work together and how you can apply them in your own work. And the only way I know to gain not only that understanding, but also confidence to design, is to sample, draw, and make mistakes. So that when you tick all those boxes, get everything just the way you like it, you know in your heart you've done a good job and created something special. And it's all yours. Plus, the beauty of a line is that it's easily replicated using stitch, whether by hand or machine. Now might also be the time to start another resource, the one I mentioned earlier, one just for inspiration. So you'll now have 2 sketchbooks or journals. One will be dedicated to design, the other will become a visual journal, which is simply a place to house your ideas and inspiration, topics you wish to research, or the results of your research. Plus, and probably the most valuable, this will become a place for you to draw and sketch, paint and collage. Here are my two journals. One deals with nothing but design, and I still refer to it. The other is my visual journal, where I keep ideas, drawings, designs, research, topics, colours, anything that interests me. Keeping your design work together in one journal or sketchbook makes a lot of sense. If you're prolific, you might like to start a new one each year, or it might take you a few years to fill. Either way, it's simply sensible and practical. So here are some artists and topics you might like to research, and I've really tried to mix it up here, but if you'd like to visit my Pinterest boards for more visual inspiration, I'll put a link in the description below for you to do so. Embroidery and quilt artists: Alice Kettle, Louise Gardner, Kathy Cullis, Sue Dove, Gloria Loftman, Maximo Laura, Diane Firth, Jane Sassaman, Constance Howard, Susan Riley, Beryl Dean. Artists: Margaret MacDonald McIntosh, Yago Hortle, Cyril Power, Sophie Munns, Anna Dillon, Joseph Frank, Helen Frankenthaler, David Hockney, Ildiko Kovacs, Robert Kushner, John Olson, Rex Ray, William Morris, May Morris, Joshua Yeldam. Unusual inspiration for line: optical illusions, calligraphy, especially Islamic, steampunk, pictographs, zoomorphic design, doors, nature, ocean life, agate, plants, animal markings. Embroidery: Deerfield, ecclesiastical, blackwork embroidery, goldwork embroidery, military embroidery, lace, historical textiles, especially medieval design and those gorgeous illuminated manuscripts. Fashion illustration: Edith Head, Alexander McQueen, Pucci, Elsa Schiaparelli. Art movements: abstract expressionism, surrealism, cubism, futurism, art deco, and op art. Books are, of course, a wonderful resource, and some of my favourites are second-hand embroidery books from the 1960s. Not only full of great embroidery advice, they also contain a wealth of line drawings sure to encourage and incentivise. Look out for any books by these embroidery artists: Constance Howard, Jennifer Gray, Beryl Dean, Kathleen White, Enid Mason. Look at how line is used successfully by all the artists I've listed, but also the techniques they use to create their artwork. Or if your inspiration comes from nature, draw, and draw some more. Take photos, gather magazine cuttings, and make notes about what it is you like and topics requiring further research, and keep all this information in your new visual journal. It's designer gold. Now would be a great opportunity to design and make covers for your new resources, your design journal and your visual journal. Make them stunning, over the top, and gorgeous. And don't stop researching and looking at other artists as well. It's so motivating, but remember, don't copy. It's fine to be inspired, but take that inspiration and idea further or in a completely different direction and make it your own. Have a wonderful time with line, because in my next episode, we'll be looking at the amazing world of shape.
Feel free to comment and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that subscribe bell as well for new fortnightly content. Tell your friends, and remember, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Empower design for yourself.
Live, love, design. It's your time. With me, Kathy Jack Copeland.